like, I don't want to call them alphas, but there are going to be verbiage mistakes that we make. We are not infallible. So as we make verbiage mistakes and you guys call us out on them, we can fix those. And eventually before the event, we will put out that there is a final, like, these are the rules going into the event. And between the stuff that gets released now and then, really shouldn't see that many changes. That is our, us putting this out is pretty much like, this is the state of the rules going forward. But the verbiage for that going forward is probably going to be closer to saying something about you can only take damage 1 hit per target region per opponent per second. Because the intent is not necessarily to prevent you from striking your opponent in the way that you want to, but just to preclude certain combat styles that are not really what we're going for with this style of game. So like more sporty combat that works elsewhere, that's for those guys. And if you are the kind of guy who can do like machine gun strikes, I trust that you will be able to still be good even though we tell you can't machine gun strike. All right. Someone else said, what would need to happen if we could get all the factions together for a night 1 feast? So we do intend on doing a large cross-faction feast. We do not yet know what it will look like, but once we begin planning it, we'll let you guys know what to expect and what, if anything, we need from you. So yeah, it's just, we think that's cool. I personally thought that the like tavern, competition was my like most favorite moment from Reckoning 2. So I'm going to make sure that we encourage something similar to that at the next event. And yeah.
It really
get
is
your
Reckoning Prom. Ozzy is right.
It's Reckoning what?
It's Reckoning Prom.
Oh, Reckoning Prom. Yes, get your fanciest outfits as appropriate, and we'll make it happen. All right. Why are staves not usable in combat? So this one is kind of a relic rule from previously that I'm open to reevaluating, but it essentially boils down to, in real life, a sharp iron spear or a halberd is obviously going to do more damage than a stick. And we do represent that in game by saying it does no damage. What I will discuss potentially is saying that it does no damage. It does no damage unless you are fully unarmored. So you could still use it in combat, but realistically, everybody's going to be wearing at least leather or a gambeson, and so it's just not going to be viable. But we can refresh that and say that you can use it outside of duels because, sure, why not? We got a couple of questions about leather helmets. That one really is aesthetic and safety reasons. That's why it specifies that to get the +1, it needs to be a metal helmet. Metal helmets are going to keep you safer, just in general, than a leather one. I know we're not using real weapons, and it doesn't really matter, but I'd rather see everyone wearing like just a plain nasal than nothing at all, and that's kind of where we're going with that. I am going to maybe look at refreshing the rules because I personally love like just a simple chain coif, and I'd like to encourage people to use those. So we'll probably say something, like padded or chainmail on their head is good enough. But I don't want to bog the rules down too much, so we might just tell people that and leave it as something that people can go ahead and do. All right, are homemade bows, such as PVC bows, still going to be allowed? Yes, homemade bows are allowed, and PVC bows were previously allowed, and they are still allowed. The rule only says that they must be medieval, does not specify the material. And yeah, as long as they meet our look standards and they're within the 35 pounds to 28 inches, then they should be good to go. All right. Out of curiosity, has there been any consideration about extending the one-handed weapon length at all? There are so many one-handed weapons that land closer to 38 or 40 inches that cannot be used by anyone but a warrior. So we did talk about moving the length up for one-handed weapons because obviously, like, I am aware that there are plenty of swords that do fall closer to 40 plus inches. I'm aware of a rapier style weapon that I personally really like that I think is 41.5 inches long in total length, and it is absolutely a one-handed weapon. But we discussed it. If we had changed it, it would have thrown some of the overall combat balancing out of whack and would have required us to adjust some verbiage where we didn't want to really have to adjust it. Specifically with sages, because we talked for a while about shield size and whether or not we should give them different weapons and so on and so forth. And we kind of landed where we were based on a pretty protracted discussion. So that's why things are the way they are. And also, it's just how they were previously, and we're inclined to leave some things alone. We don't want to change the whole game, but some of the stuff just works better based on what people have requested. All right, next question. If the game is avoiding combat casting, what are the Arcanists for? So we are not necessarily avoiding combat casting. Going back to our discussions about balancing, we had a lot of problems with how to balance warriors and sages against one another. For a while there, we had floated the idea of just making artisans the third combat class for balance reasons. We decided not to do that and to just create a new class. And it does mean that we have had to not totally go back to the drawing board, but we have had to reevaluate our spells, because now that there is a class whose whole job is casting spells, we do kind of have to give them a sufficient buff that they don't feel like they are left out in terms of being able to engage with the game. There are a lot of new spells coming, which is the next question. What new spells are being discussed? There are a bunch of them. I believe previously there were 7 spells at Reckoning 1 and 2, and I think we are at 16 new spells, or I should say there are 16 total spells. So all the previous spells have been reworked. They're all coming back. They're just going to have a little bit different verbiage. We've changed most of them, but to give you guys a sneak peek, some of the spells we are going to be dropping out are Deafness is going to be a spell going forward, Petrify, Compelled Duel, but we can't really release all the spells right now because we're having to rebalance them. Yeah. All right, now that shields are breakable, is 3 damage points too much for arrows? Our intent with the shield breaking rule is not that you guys, your shield breaks on Wednesday or whatever, and then you can't use your shield again until Friday. That's not the intent of it. Like, you should be able to start every engagement of the game with a shield that works. That is how it pretty much should work. In an engagement where you like form a really aggressive shield wall, looking at you guys, Batterkin, someone might break a couple shields in that wall. But it is not going to be something where it's like their shields are broken and then they're out for the next few hours. Like, a sage or an arcanist is going to be able to come along and they're going to be able to cast some ending on it. That is, I would hazard a guess, like one of, not necessarily the main purposes, but that is going to be one of the things that arcanists specifically are doing, because we're balancing the 3 spheres of spells such that, like, 3rd sphere spells, they're really powerful, but arcanists aren't going to be able to cast them very much, no more than like once or twice in an engagement. So like an amending spell is going to be something that they can just pop off. You just turn around, you're like, my shield's broken, and they can just come over and fix it for you. So shields are going to be able to break. I don't anticipate them being broken so much that arrows become overpowered. All right. How much of our faction color do we need to wear? Can I wear mostly neutral colors and add a green belt and get away with it? So yes, I think you could wear mostly neutral colors and get away with it with just like a green sash. The kicker is that your kit needs to be distinct enough that even though the only thing you're wearing is a green sash, I can look at you instantly and know that you're a Rivlin. That's the kicker. And it's really going to come down to how well you craft the rest of your kit. If you could think you can pull it off, then go for it. But I just personally would recommend, wear a tunic or pants or a hood or something in your color. It's nothing too crazy, but we'll talk. All right.
And we are currently, that was our first in the chat question. So if you guys have any more questions now that you want to throw our way,
Yeah.
throw them our way.
So yes, we are in the, those are all the questions we had prepared. There were not that many this time. So if people want to raise their hands, we can get them in here to ask questions.
Is Liam wearing pants?
Yes. Okay, ETA on style guides. I'll let Sash take this one.
Yep. So Joel and I are working on those together. We are really hoping to have them out to you guys by the end of the month, at the very latest. So I would say if they're not out by September 1st, that is a problem.
Yep. All right, let's see. I don't see any raised hand.
Kits can be sent in for approval once the style guides are released. If you feel the need to send them in now, they will sit in the inbox, and we will get back to you once the guides have been released. So it would make sense to wait, but kind of up to you on that one.
ETA on spell descriptions. So those I would like to get out to you guys within the next 2 weeks. So as you can tell, there are only 3 of us out of 6 here right now. Micah and Gabby are currently at Bico, and I believe Joel is also LARPing this weekend, as is kind of the curse of being LARPers. We go LARPing all the time, and so we're not totally around. But once Micah and Joel get back from their voyages to other realms, then we will get cracking on those spells. They are pretty much done. I'm not gonna lie. I put a lot of work into those. Mike and I created a bunch of cool stuff with what you guys are going to need to have, but in general, yeah, they're pretty much ready. I just need, some more staff input and feedback on the stuff that we already created. All right. Are we going to have an announced game schedule for the event posted beforehand during the event with times for special in-game events and suits meal times? I think we could definitely work on that. I don't necessarily have an answer for that specifically, because one of the things that we as staff have talked about is that we want to move away from it feeling like the game is scripted. There will be a few things that we are going to script. The orcs and the undead are going to do stuff that we plan ahead of time. But in general, we're trying to encourage a more organic feeling gameplay. So like fights aren't really going to, we're not other LARPs where the fights happen at 1 o'clock right after lunch, and then they happen at 9 a.m. and then they happen at 1 o'clock after the next lunch. That's not really like our goal. But yes, I think for like Bardic Night and whatnot, we're definitely going to want to say like, okay, night 1 is party night and everyone get ready for it. Night 2 is the whatever we call it, the Olympics, Reckoning Olympics, I think is what someone's idea was. And then we say night 3 is the next thing, and then night 4 is big staff prepared event or whatever. I think that kind of stuff very easily we can get out to you guys, so everyone has time to prep.
Absolutely.
All right. Oh God, something just happened. All right. With class ability changes, will there be additional artisan abilities or changes to how they operate? So yes, the artisans are getting pretty much a full revamp. I think it's Clover who is in here. She's not. I think she's in here. She's not in our little discussion right now, but she could float in and talk to you guys about that if she wanted to. She and Sash definitely put in a whole bunch of work on that.
I gotta
and
give huge props to Clover on that one. I barely take credit. She really knocked it out of the park with that one.
yeah. All right, how will the spell economy work? Number of day, cost per spells. We're sticking with the card thing. The thing that we are specifically changing is that there are going to be materials in the game world that have to be collected, some of it through just like finding it, and some of it through like hunting orcs and or whatever else, playing undead. And then you get those materials, you take them to a spell scribe, and then the spell scribe is going to convert those materials into a spell card, which is going to involve spell scribes actually writing the card, because we're not going to have 50,000 cards prepped for you guys. We'd like to see a little bit more of a natural, like the spell scribes take a quill and they actually write on a card, like this is what the card does, so on and so forth, and they hand it to you and you hand them some silver or whatever it is you're bartering with. And that's kind of how we would like the spell economy to work. General economy fixes incoming, yes. I mean, more coin, we're gonna have to work on that. But in general, yes, we would like the NPCs to be able to distribute coin to the members of the game a much better basis, so that you guys actually have coin to spend and there's a much more natural flow of them through the event. I don't know if we're going to be able to come up with like different types of coins. I think we're probably just going to stick with the same Reckoning Silver we had last year, mostly because it is actually really expensive to get like 1 million coins printed. But yes, we're at least going to try to speed up the process so that everyone has the ability to get coins somehow, and then they have things to spend them. Are Arcanists able to cast spells without cards, cast lower sphere spells without cards? That is not really something we're working on. Pretty much all the classes as they stand are like what they're going to be. Warriors are going to be, they wear armor and have bigger shields, and that's about it. It's going to be it's tough to balance warriors without like giving them things that are essentially just spells, but it's a warrior ability. It was discussed. I will give that to you guys, that we did talk about it. One of the things that Arcanists are going to be able to do, though, at least for a couple of the spells, they're going to be able to upcast them, which is going to involve them, when an Arcanist casts the spell, they can do more with it. It shouldn't require too much RP or foreknowledge from other people. Like if you can't tell the difference between a Sage and an Arcanist, it's not going to be a problem. The Arcanist is just going to be able to tell you that I'm casting the spell as an Arcanist, so now it does different thing that is slightly better than what a Sage could do. Will the cards remain the same size? Yeah, we're not really planning to change the size of the cards. We're going to have to work on getting you guys like special ink and cardstock and all that stuff. But in general, we're not deliberately planning on changing it. Status of the gold game. There's some new stuff coming down the pipeline, that because the gold game is not really like the point of Reckoning anymore. I understand, that was kind of like the thing that was happening at Reckoning 2, but there will be gold in the world that's, worth lots of money, but it's not like the objective of the game of Reckoning. There is going to be an objective. It's not really like, I guess it's similar to the gold game, but it actually has like role play reasons for it that we are working on. So, it's not just get the most money. It's like collect X things so that, good things happen to you guys. We'll go over that more eventually, which may happen when we drop the spellcasting stuff. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Yes, hopefully some of the cultures have more than 3 spell scribes, because those spell scribes are about to be putting in work. You guys are going to pay through the nose for spells, because their time is going to be worth a lot. Yeah, bottle sizes. I don't know. Maybe we're gonna have to buy new bottles, presumably. Um, it also might come down to us telling players to BYO bottles. We're not really sure yet, so we'll see. But they did all change. All right. I'm ready for the next thing, so hold on a sec. All right, Sasha, take over.
Okay. Has there been any talk giving quest givers extra starting silver to help pay for the quests? We haven't really discussed it so far, but yeah, that's a great idea. We definitely want to make sure that there are quests to do and that people are being rewarded. So to get that economy jump started, we will have to be putting silver into the economy. Um,
So yes, the staff who are part of each of the cultures, your culture co-leads is what we're calling them. They're going to have the ability to create quests. They're going to have the ability to give out quest rewards. We are introducing a whole new group of NPCs who are going to be giving out quests and controlling quest rewards. And then pretty much all of the staff who aren't those people are going to be able to say, like, okay, here's a quest to go do.
Has anyone gotten an answer on the ways to get silver? There will be lots. We don't necessarily have them all pegged down right now. I recognize that's not a very specific answer, and I'm sure that can be frustrating.
The answers are going to be questing and bounties and collecting items in the game world. That's about as precise as you could get. So we're going to be, for instance, artisans are going to require items in order for them to perform their artisan duties and responsibilities, and they are going to, have to presumably pay silver to players to get that stuff and get paid in turn for the spells and potions and stuff that they make. So should be plenty of ways for you guys to make money.
Righty. Liam, you said you were ready to move on to something?
I'm trying to get Philgar to join the chat, but he is not listening to me and he's not coming in here to talk about his stuff.
Oh, classic Philgar. A criminal. Mind, he's here.
So if you want to go ahead and talk to us about arbiters.
Okay. So this is a new entity for Reckoning. The arbiters are in game a sort of a college of wizards who have been hiding out in the hinterlands and engaged in arcane studies and have realized that evil has entered the land and are coming down to help humanity fight off cursed creatures. What arbiters will do in the real terms is first and foremost to be the marshals, particularly in combat, to call out people who are not doing combat in a way that helps the game, helps them help. And so we're going to be providing correction and suggestions for that to make the, if somebody's whacking too hard or not counting their hits or something, giving them some guidance on that. And as well as assisting outside of combat with people who need a disinterested third party, whether this be diplomats or a helpful, powerful entity who can provide some guidance, whether in game or out of game. These will be the arbiters. We are also going to be providing guidance on spell crafting, so to be the ones to say, here's how it's done. Here's what our recommendations for role-playing casting spells. Here are the cards, and here's what they've got to say. And then there will be some larger, more intensive spell and magic parts to the game that the arbiters will be. I don't know whether I want to say overseeing or providing the guidance of these wise mages who know how it's done and are assisting the spell scribes and so on who may not have done that ritual before and need to know sort of what's the structure for that.
So the arbiters are being picked. It's a volunteer basis. Anyone who wants to be an arbiter can be an arbiter. In general, it's going to require of them that we're going to have special trainings and meetings for the arbiters to go to so that they are ready to actually perform their role at the event. So they're not just going to show up to the event and wonder what's going on. These, they're players who are going to show up to the event with a knowledge of the rules inside and out, and they are ready to elaborate on them and ensure that all the players are following them correctly. And Philgar, would you like to introduce yourself?
Right. In Reckoning 2, I was Dorn of the Vedrkin, and obviously now as an arbiter, I'll not be in a faction. I'll be this disinterested third party, the fair witnesses for the game. Personally, I'm Jim Rubarth-Lay and have LARPed for a few years, longer if you want to count doing SCA way back in the day. I'm the guy with the long white beard. It'll be braided and have dangly bits in it. And you'll recognize me with probably a completely different kit that's going to be outrageously orange and flamboyant.
So I do see one question in the chat. Are arbiters still players or are they full-time NPCs? They are full-time NPCs, and like Jim mentioned, they will be denoted by their bright orange attire. But if an arbiter does for the evening want to have a spare kit, they are allowed to have non-orange things to say, please leave me alone right now. Everyone's allowed a break. It's a long weekend. We're not expecting everyone to have to be on 100% of the time.
In case of emergency, look for orange. That is correct. So some of the staff are going to be wearing orange, and then the arbiters should be pretty obvious what they are based on their garb. So if you have any problems, go find them. Will there be a place for all to go and see the spell effects, or is that what spell scribes will be writing on the cards as well? At the event, you can do two things to see the verbiage for the spells. You can find an arbiter. Arbiters are going to be carrying rule books. They're going to have great big tomes that are just all of the rules of Reckoning that they can flip through, and you can read what the rules are at the event from an arbiter. The other thing is that, yes, spell scribes are going to be writing the effects on the cards. Now, some of the spells, specifically Friend, has an obscenely long spell effect. So we're going to be having the artisans write abbreviated spell effects on the cards, and it will just kind of be like, yes, everyone in general knows what Friend does. But if you don't, here's an arbiter who can tell you what it does 100%.
And as far as looting the arbiters, do not recommend it. The arbiters will be carrying deadly curses, and if it's not a voluntary looting, your character can be insta-killed.
And yes, for those of you who did notice it in the combat rules we put out, we are adding death mechanics. It doesn't apply to non-combatants. And the biggest rule to remember about death is that only you can choose to kill your character permanently. But in general, there are going to be consequences for falling in battle and some fun roleplay stuff that goes along with that. So it's not just like, you get up and get down and get up and get down and so on and so forth. It should be kind of fun. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes. Not the Chumbawamba song. All right. Any other questions from the people we've got in here?
When will Mortal Wounds come out in more detail? And how many death points until we're dead?
Currently, it looks like after your 4th mortal wound, you would be dead. Or not really dead. We're saying that you are on the... you are mostly dead. And so you have to go voyage to Oblivion, which is going to be the location that we set up for that. When will more wounds come out in more detail? I'd like to put them out potentially around the same time we put out spells. Some of the mortal wound stuff is going to be find out in game. But yes, our current plan is that you guys are going to get little cards that the bow knitters are going to scratch off or punch for you guys, and that's how you're going to keep track of how close you are to death. But we're still workshopping that. That was my concept that I think we're going to go with. Will there be a non-combat location that is lit in the evening that scribes could go and write the spells? Yeah, I mean, we're encouraging everyone to bring plenty of light. We'll probably have some tables set up. So yes, there will be places that you guys can go and write spells in the evenings if that's what you guys want to go do.
I'm thinking that the arbiters will be holding sessions where we're assisting in this.
So the arbiters are going to be the ones who are coordinating the artisan crafting. So potion smiths and spell scribes, you're going to be very well acquainted with the arbiters, because pretty much every time you go to craft scribe a spell or craft a potion, you're going to have to talk to an arbiter to essentially trade in your supplies to be able to craft a spell. And that's not totally how we want to do it every time, but in general, that is going to be the...
Is there a special mini event like the Jaeger wedding last year? Oh, sorry. If there's a special mini event like the Jaeger wedding last year that a group wants to put on, what would be the best way to inform staff and make sure it doesn't overlap with anything already planned? I would just shoot us an email and then we can work it into the calendar. Something like that is really fun. Liam seems to be grimacing as I say that.
I would just say talk to your culture lead once we put those out, which should be pretty soon.
Okay, that also works. Talk to your culture lead.
And yeah, they'll work it out with you guys. I don't, we will, if we're trying to do something big, you guys will know ahead of time. But in general, we're trying to set it up so that content happens in tandem at the event. It is going to feel like, oh man, there might be a little bit of FOMO that I went to this and this other super cool thing was happening at the same time, so I didn't get to experience. But that to us is a little bit of how we want to create a more living world at Reckoning so that, you know, there's stuff happening that you might not even know about in the background, and you might walk past another group of players who are talking about an event that you had no idea was happening. It just makes the world feel more alive. So that's, we're not trying to like schedule everything in like 30-minute blocks so everyone can go to every little thing in the game, which is why I would say, you know, if you have something cool that you want to throw on that you guys want to prep, just go for it. I'm sure as long as you float it past the staff, they're going to give you a thumbs up, and you'll be able to create something cool for Rec. All right. You got told that you should do it. Staff overlapped you. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of, I'm pretty sure that was deliberate from staff last year. The orcs did stuff during the wedding, and that was kind of on purpose. And maybe you guys didn't want your wedding to get interrupted, but I'm sure that will. I think it was the thralls. Thralls attacked during the wedding, and they were the wedding crashers. And nope, we don't really have locations or dates. We're still talking to a couple of different venues and getting updates. But what we'll pretty much say is we've talked to a few. Our current problem is that we are running into a third year trying to find a new venue, and there are a lot of you guys, and we are sort of anticipating a little bit of growth from last year. There were roughly 170 people on site at the previous event, and we are, I think, expecting to go over 200, and 200 is like right at that threshold where a lot of venues say, no, we can't host that. So it has been a little bit of a hurdle for us to get over going into a fresh year without having a venue prepped. But we are working on it. We are sending emails. We're talking to people, and we'll get that to you guys as soon as we know for sure. All right. Any further questions or stuff? Sean, you want to put some things out?
I don't really have too much, so I think everything's been covered.
All right.
I see one last one that is there any way it could be not scheduled the weekend before the 15th of April? Your wife will kill you if it is. Don't worry. You don't need to worry about your wife killing you. That's really not when we're planning on doing it. We're aiming for the end of May. Keeping it around the same time that it was last year.
Sean, can you tell us about any of the props you're working on? Anything cool? You don't have to give people like specifics about what they are, but I think people would love to see that we are making stuff for the event, and you're all over it.
Maybe he's having trouble with his mic. You want to?
Yeah, Sean's
give some hints.
Internet. So yes, mostly with the artisan stuff is what we've got going on right now. They are prepping stuff, or I should say, Sean is making stuff for the crafting game that the artisans are going to be playing, and you guys should get to see those soon-ish. We got to refresh some of the rules because we, again, did change some stuff after it was already written, so we kind of got to go back through. Like Memorial Day weekend, yes, probably close to Memorial Day weekend. Culture leads, how is leadership going to be handled differently going forward? Our general intent is that the leadership of the event are going to have more out-of-game power than they are going to have in-game power. So your lore questions, character like backstory building, your kit questions, all that stuff is going to go through your culture leads because they're going to be the system experts on all of that stuff. Within the game, and I say out of game, they're also going to be like coordinating meetings, getting all the Rivlins or whoever to show up for a meeting and hang out and talk shop and how are you guys doing on your kits, that sort of thing. And then within the game, it is going to be kind of a situation, as we already talked about, with stuff that you guys want to do. If you want to do something and you think it would be cool, you should probably run it by your culture lead so that they can facilitate it. Whatever way they can to make that happen for you, they will be able to create something interesting for you. Like, I'll give you an example. If you said, like, I'm interested in going to hunt orcs, Jaegers, you said, I want to go hunt orcs. Your culture lead, says, I wonder if there will be orcs about. And they wander off behind a tent and they pull out their little walkie-talkie and they say, okay, Joel, we need, 4 orcs or something to go, hang out and get ambushed by Jaegers. And the staff will facilitate that sort of stuff for you, because it does require a little bit of, intermeshed cogs in our machine to run stuff for you guys. Because, we can't read your minds. So it's basically talk to staff and they'll try to set stuff up for you. It will also work in reverse. For instance, one good example might be we want to, have a little bit of combat. So we say we have an NPC who goes to one of the cultures and says, I need 15 guards to help me move my valuable goods from point A to point B. And then at the same time, a culture lead in a different faction knows about that and says, like, hey, I heard a rumor that there's a merchant with escorts who's going along this road through the forest, and I bet there's going to be good stuff there, and they might encourage some other players to go and give them a good robbing, that kind of stuff. So that's basically how they're going to work in game. They're not going to have like in-game role play power over you. They're not going to be your like battlefield officers unless they want to be, or you guys would like them to be. In general, their job is to facilitate how the game operates for you. And they should be less of meddling in whatever it is your characters want to do. In general, you guys should be able to do pretty much whatever you want to, and the culture leads will help. They will give you guys the yes and no buts of play to lift, so you guys can have the fun game that you deserve. All right.
So what did I miss?
We were going to see if there were any cool props you wanted to discuss or show us, and then there was also a question of if people had ideas for props, could they send them to you somehow?
Yeah, we made that form, correct? Is there a way that we can adapt that from staff to players?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to do, I'm more than willing to set that up so that players can submit concepts for props.
Currently, I'm working on resin crystals for one of the new currencies in the game. So I ended up casting my own crystals, and they have little submersible lights, so they all light up red or rainbows. See if I can get this one on real quick.
Yes, that is one of the secret new currencies of the game, and you guys will learn more about that very soon, probably when we put out the magic stuff.
That's pretty much it. I'm in trial and error phases. I'm just trying to figure out how to do resin crafting. So when they're more completed, I'll probably post more pictures. There's a couple more things that I'm working on as well. I just don't want to give away too much right now.
Yeah.
Any word on the Patreon? The Patreon is underway. our marketing department was just in Germany for Realms of Mythidia, so once they are back in the swing of things with their normal lives, the Patreon will be coming in that direction.
All right, Clover just asked to speak, and I invited her if she wants to come up here.
Hello. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on the Patreon thing because I am helping to work on that. So I'm currently writing up a bunch of scripts for stuff because I know some people are visual learners like myself. So I'm planning on making some videos and fun stuff about like how some of the mechanics work, just so people have like a visual representation of it. We're gonna have some nice crafting videos from Sean on a deeper insight on some of his props and just a lot of cool inside looks of stuff. So things are in the work. I just don't want people to think that it's not going anywhere. So yeah. That's about it.
Do you want to talk about the artisan stuff a little bit?
Yeah, sure. How much do you want me to say?
You don't have to be too specific, but just in general, like kind of the stuff you had worked on.
Sure. So I'll touch a little bit on the potion smiths since we kind of went into spell scribes a little bit. So for potion smiths, I added a mechanic for hunting, foraging, and all of that fun stuff. So some of these ingredients to craft potions are going to be more difficult to find, and some of them are going to be required for you to go out and hunt something like an orc or something a bit more dangerous, perhaps. So that's my goal of that, was to encourage parties forming, so hiring warriors in order to get these rare ingredients to help you in that. And a whole, yeah, so sorry, I lost track of thought a little bit. So with these ingredients, they obviously craft different potions, and there's going to be ingredient lists for certain, like how to craft certain potions. And arbiters are going to be able to help out with that in their rule books and everything. Like Liam said, they're going to be pretty buddy-buddy with the artisans. And yeah, if anyone has any questions about stuff about it. What are other potions besides healing? Ooh, I don't know which ones I should leak. Well, give me 1 second to pull up my thingy-mabobber real quick. Obviously, all of them. Right, Theseus. One thing I will say, because I don't want to take credit, I will leak this potion because I actually took inspiration from Theseus on this one, and that was the Phoenix potion. So that's one of the more rarer potions that I pulled inspo from Theseus's original thing that you had written up for Reckoning. So I just wanted to let you know that I definitely pulled that from you. So that's one of them. So that will heal you up full HP and armor points. There's going to be some fun stuff in there, like poison is going to be added in. And that does have a lot of regulations with it, which we will be very clear about. So, yeah, those are two that I'll leak for now. Yeah, I figured that.
Yeah,
Theseus.
In general, the concept for potions going forward is that they will not need to be labeled the way that like the spells are on their cards. Obviously, the card has to say what the spell is before you can cast it. But in general, the concept for potions is going to be that they're all like sufficiently visually different. And this is going to be something that is going to require actually a little bit of skill on the part of the potion smiths, is that, you know, when they're crafting the potions, this is also, I think, a little bit on us to provide you guys with the correct materials. But whatever they make has to be able to be like handed to someone and they can just look at it and know what's in that bottle based on the color that it is or whatever else. So it shouldn't be something that's like extremely complicated that you guys have to learn or question or, you know, wonder what's in this bottle, which might happen because not everyone's going to remember every single color combination, but you know, we'll try our best to make it simple. So
And even
that's where we're at
Hopefully
with
the
potions.
potion sellers will write it down.
yeah, it should be on the bottle as well. That's something that I did want to do on there too, just to help a little bit. And like Liam said, they are all going to be color coded, and some of them are also going to have mica powder in them to make them shimmery and look all magical and pretty. So yeah.
For powder
Don't drink
and
them
mica?
because you will die.
Huh? Wait, what am I thinking of?
She was making a joke about good God King Micah turning into powder and being shoved into bottles.
Yeah, fuck
Yeah,
it if it makes it
It
pretty.
wasn't. It clearly wasn't funny. I get it. It's
No,
fine.
I just didn't hear you. No, you do not drink potions. I do not want to encourage people to actually drink these. They will be dumped out.
Yeah, I know only one of them, or maybe two, will say that it is a poison, but they're all going to be real life poison, and you will get sick if you drink them.
You will die. No, it's just honestly the potion drinking is just to encourage people because, you know, those bottles get passed around a lot, and if they're not cleaned properly or something gets in them that's not supposed to be in them, it's just a hazard that I don't think we are comfortable with having out there.
Yeah, it's a classic instance of don't you put it in your mouth if you don't know where it's from.
Exactly. Cooties.
Yeah, so what Sean just wrote, if anyone has ideas for tutorials or stuff, like that is going to be one of the things we try to put on the Patreon is, you know, we have got a dearth of very skilled craftspeople at this event. And if you want to learn something from us, like if you saw somebody make something cool for their kit, you know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Oaken. I don't know if he's in here, but if you saw someone make something super cool for their kit, we would love to work with you guys to create content. A plethora is the opposite. Yeah, you're right. For us to send out to you guys so we can actually get you your money's worth. How are the culture co-leads being chosen? It's kind of based on what we saw of people last year and just their general skill with managing people, their interpersonal relationships, their, I guess, how chill they are would be one of the right words. But one of the bigger things that we're looking for as far as vetting the culture co-leads is we're not really looking for people who are good at playing the game. You know, we don't want the culture co-leads to be like the best fighter and the best role player. That's really not their job at the event. They are there to facilitate the people who are the good fighters and the good role players. So we want people who can, you know, kind of put the event on their back a little bit and make sure that the people who came here to have fun get to have fun. All right. Any word on the age limits for the LARP? That one is going to boil down to our insurance, but it is looking like it is going to be 18 plus or 16 plus with a guardian. But that's, again, still something we're discussing. Those are the most likely answers to it. We're not really going to be doing the, well, I say that. We have discussed potentially having like wristbands or armbands for people based on whether or not they are over or under 21. But as it stands, we as an event are not going to be providing alcohol. And so there is a little bit of an onus on the players to track that. Don't just give your alcohol to random people at the event. Maybe verify that they are of legal drinking age before you do so. But again, we're still discussing it. It might be a thing. I can neither confirm nor deny at this time. All right. Unless there's like one or two last questions, this is about an hour. The height requirements, what is it for most roller coasters? 4 foot, 3'6" or something?
Nah, we don't
Anyway,
discriminate based on height. Anyone can come if you're an adult.
All are welcome. We are or at least attempt to be as disability and handicap friendly an event as we could possibly be. How are we handling vendors at the event? We are still working that out, but if you know a vendor that you would like to be at the event, they are welcome to contact us. We have already reached out to a couple of vendors, and we have, I think, 2 who have said maybe. So it is a little bit, again, hinging on if we can get the date and location out to people in a reasonable amount of time. It's just a matter of some people would love to come, but it's just not the right weekend for them, so on and so forth. So we're still working on that. But in general, we would love to have vendors. We'd like to have as many as we can at the event. We think that would be fun. That would be cool. So if you know of a vendor that you want to see at the event, we're reaching out to them. Vendors isn't real money. Yes, we are talking to, I think we've reached out to Kalamazoo and Epic Armory, and then we've reached out to Great Company Outfitters, and I think there were 1 or 2 more, but I don't remember who. Players that also offer items for actual sale. We'll see. We'd have to discuss that because we are going to be having the vendors like actually sign legal paperwork for them to be able to come to the event. So it's kind of a question of how do we want to run it. I'd have to talk to Gabby because
something like the bazaar again this year, though. So
yes,
if
we are
wanting to sell for in-game currency, that's perfectly fine.
Right. We are definitely doing the bazaar again. It was cool. I think there's a lot of potential in there to make that more fun. We'll probably try to put that in a more central location. So the bazaar and the tavern and wherever the arbiters hang out are all going to be right next to each other. So there's like a central location. Can we steal? We are working on that. That one is kind of a question of how can we facilitate that? I know Drachenfest came out with some neat rules for that. We will have to see because I think that would be cool. But again, it's just a matter of like how well can we set that up for people. But it would be super cool to get that in the game, and it's definitely one of the things we have written down. So we are at about an hour, and unless anybody's got any last questions, I think that's going to be about it. So last call, staff, if you guys want to put anything else out.
I did see at one point, when can we expect the recap? Because someone came in just as we were finishing up the questions. As soon as I can do it.
We would love to have a volunteer who can help us out with that because we staff are definitely getting bogged down in the details. So if there's somebody who wants to help us write that document, go ahead and send us like a DM or something and say, I will go through and turn it into stuff. So we took notes on the questions that we asked in general, but if somebody wants to help us make it look pretty, we'd love some help with that because we as staff are working on so many other things that do not include the Q&A recaps. All right. Well, good talking to everybody. Hope you guys had fun.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We'd love to see it.
Same.
Cool chat.
Bye.